During the 1960s, several social movements vied for dominance in the political sphere of America. The most multi-layered and pertinent of these was the anti-war movement. It started on college campuses across the nation, where wealthy educated whites started to display displeasures to the war in Vietnam. They disliked the violence and viewed the war to be a criminal act against human rights. After peaceful attempts to reason with the government failed, the students grew increasingly angry, and thoughts of violence began to simmer. Talks were held, meetings and rallies, all opposing the war, and when the government tried to stop them, their thoughts of violence became reality. Riots erupted across the nation as colleges became battlegrounds between the government soldiers and students for peace. The more resistance the protesters received, the more passionate they became for change. They targeted anything associated with the war or military, draft boards, ROTC offices, and military training courses on campus. The opposition to the draft was especially fierce, as to them it represented an attack on their freedom as well as the nation's. Vietnam was more than just a simple military conflict, it was continuation of the Cold War conflict that pervaded America. The policymakers obsessed over perpetuating a war in the name of freedom and equality. It did not maintain these rights at home. The students were fed up with their hypocrisy and decided to act, but they were not alone. As time went on, minorities, who had long been the victims of inequality, and even soldiers who experienced the horrors of Vietnam firsthand, joined the anti-war movement, and it grew even more powerful. This was one of the first times in history that educated middle-class whites got together in large numbers to speak about inequality in America. The movement was about more than just war. It was the facade that the government played to rationalize their war without actually caring about human rights. These whites then united with the minorities, forming a bridge across class and race. People of all races marched as one against a common goal, and their conflict was like none ever seen before in America. It was multifaceted, multiracial, violent, and peaceful, concerning both domestic and foreign issues. Soldiers told stories of the abominations they witnessed overseas, which created even more opposition as protesters learned what their government was doing in the supposed name of peace. The individual struggles of each of these groups, from students to soldiers, provide such a great glimpse into the mindset of the 60s. Looking back, you see not one point of view, as many of the other social movements held, but many views stemming from diverse backgrounds. This diversity was uniqueness in the anti-war movement and defined it from all the others. The anti-war movement spoke not only to inequality and foreign injustice, but also to the Cold War, which prolonged discrimination throughout the era. Through this, it was the broadest and most important social movement, as the anti-war affected everyone.